Welcome to episode 260
Yeah,
of the Casual Tryhard podcast. This is year 5.
that's right. This is our
I'm Brian.
5 years worth of episodes. I'm James.
Yeah. And we are sticking with our normal stuff. We are talking about a new set.
No way. I don't believe it.
See that there's a new set?
Yeah.
One could say this set may have lost its way. They're out looking for it right now.
Ooh, I think we just had an episode name.
Yeah.
Lost.
There we go. I'm assuming there's going to be a search for the fog monster will show up in one of these cards eventually.
Probably.
There's going to be a chariot. It's just going to be the mystery mobile or something.
Yes.
So yeah, we're talking about Murders at Karlov Manor.
That's right.
Our new Ravnica set. We're going to go over the mechanics. We do have a scheduled rant. We will see if we get to the scheduled rant.
We'll see.
It's a very long bullet points.
We talked about it in the pre-show though, so if we don't get it, our patrons will get to listen to it.
Yeah, well, at least some of it. So if you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, X. Email, all those links are in the description. Come in, say hey. Let us know what you want to talk about. Let us know what you think about this set, because we're trying to figure out if we're alone on this.
Yeah.
On some of our feelings.
Well, it's kind of weird, right? Because, like, typically when there's big Magic news, and I would consider information about an upcoming set release big Magic news, there's a buzz. There's people talking about it on Twitter and Reddit and like all of the places where you would expect to see people talking about Magic. And I didn't really see, I only looked briefly. I didn't have a ton of time today, but I didn't really see a whole lot of discourse happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see if there's people out there that have a differing opinion than us. If you guys are looking to support the show, though, there's 2 ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG Player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Anything you purchase from TCG Player after following that link will help to support the show. It doesn't cost you guys anything extra and really helps us out, so we would appreciate it. And like I mentioned before, our patrons get extra content out of us every week. We do a pre-show where we kind of catch up a little bit because we don't get to see each other really anymore. We make sure all our equipment's working, that kind of stuff. Super off the cuff, completely unedited, unscripted. We have no idea what we're going to talk about when we start. But we record it and we feed it right into our patrons' ear holes. And they
directly
love it.
In.
Yep. And yeah. So we covered the rant a little bit this week in the pre-show. If we don't get to it during the episode, our patrons can check it out there. Patrons also get access to our show notes, so you kind of get a sneak peek about what the episode's going to be about. And you get put on my mailing list for when I have cool stuff to send out to you guys. I'm making strides towards the Patreon givebacks. I apologize it's taking so long, but I have a lot to learn before I can crank them out for you guys. So they are coming. I apologize it's taken a while. But if you want in before I finish collecting all of my knowledge, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. You can chip a couple bucks in, help support the show, and get access to some more stuff.
I mean, if I've learned anything from movies and TV, I basically just need to drop like a case of Mountain Dew Code Red and some Doritos and just like leave you in front of your computer to like hack into the matrix of how to make magic card proxies. And like you can knock this out in a weekend, man. Just like Mountain Dew Code Red fueled.
Well, what I'm working on isn't magic card proxies.
Oh no! Oh man!
Oh yeah! No, this is gonna be cool.
But, oh man! Yeah, there we go. You just
I have some
into the matrix.
Yeah.
Here you go. An arena overlay that puts our proxies, your previous proxies, on the tokens on top of your arena cards. There you go. Yeah. Have you seen? I watch Jim Davis's stuff now from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
and he's sponsored by Untapped.gg,
Okay.
and they have some like, oh, what is it called? But like basically a draft thing that tells you the value of every card in the pack and what you should pick, and then it makes changes. It changes the value of cards based on what's already in your pool.
Wow.
And then at the end, it tells you how to build the optimal deck for the cards you have in your pool. So I'm assuming they're pulling from like 17's lands data, or they might have their own like limited data. But yeah, so they're just like
I'm assuming that's a paid thing.
Yeah, it's like a couple bucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, like that seems like that is a big shift in like the way Magic is played.
Yes.
Right, because before it was like I have to learn what cards are good and read articles and stuff, and it's like, no.
Paint by numbers.
Yeah, it was just like I kind of want to download it. Like I don't hardly play on my computer, but I kind of want to like download it just to like
see what it's about.
Yeah, like because it just seems like so random and like
there used to, I think 17 lands used to have an overlay that you could install.
There was someone did, but it was like I don't know how good it was. I don't know how good this is.
Yeah.
But like it's just like, you know, like the little ad is like we change the value of the cards based on what's already in your pool and stuff, and it's like
it's impressive.
It's like, okay, like I could see like, oh hey, like you know, this black card is better than this black card, and like you're already red black, or like, oh, you have 3 black cards and then here's this like green black gold card. Maybe you should, it's way better than the red card, so take it and like go that like maybe it does that. But it's like, like I wonder how like paint, like you've still got to like not screw up your games, but like if like if it's just like a better AI draft than the
bots,
than the bots, and you're just like, oh, I wonder like how like I bet you it just like smashes the bots,
probably
because they're like awful.
Yeah.
So you just like end up with like the sickest deck. I don't know, but yeah, it's just weird. It's like, all right, so now
was the last
AI,
time you drafted against the bots?
I think there was like a midweek Magic a while back.
It was a Phantom draft.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, I don't remember it being like just, you know, as many ridiculous rares getting passed to you.
Well, I found it's been a while since I did one, but I found exactly the opposite. Like there were a lot of things that I expected to wheel that would have wheeled in like a normal draft that didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I also don't know, like, I think the bots get better as the season goes on.
Yeah.
So, because like they get like new data fed into them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny, like where we think of Arena. Like I have no idea when I will ever play Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm playing Amalia combo, thinking about like, okay, I'm gonna play some Pioneer deck at some a tournament at some point. I'm gonna be better with Amalia combo because I play like these like 5 games a morning.
Yeah.
When I work out or whatever, and like, and that just kind of is like, no, we're arena-ing for the sake of arena.
Yeah.
And it's like weird to think of it that way. Like I've not made that transition. I'm still like in boomer mindset of like I've got to play paper.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk, like, I was thinking about like what can we do for 5 years other than go through these mechanics, and I was like, well, we can talk about things that have changed over the 5 years, and that's a big one.
It is a big one.
Everyone is now almost everyone is kind of arena-ing for the sake of arena.
Yeah.
And not
I mean, we can keep going if you want to. We can save this for next week.
Not that like arena is like the end goal now.
Yeah.
Not like a thing to
well, I mean, that kind of coincides with what my rant was going to be, though, right?
Yeah, we can double up the end goal that is arena. Yeah. It's also funny. Jim Davis, I think, uses the Untapped.gg overlay.
Yeah,
and he can mouse over, and it tells him like the number of lands left in his deck and the percentage chance he'll draw a land, like in real time.
It's
And
impressive.
it's just like, whatever. He's streaming and whatever, it's fine, but like, like playing the game on Arena and having one of those overlays or whatever, and then like you're like so not developing the skills you need for.
I mean, as far as that's concerned, though, you kind of are developing a skill, though, as long as you're paying attention, because
like
you're being reinforced with actual
data.
Yeah, you're like what you think your probabilities are. You're being constantly corrected.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you've seen your opening hand, and you've played through a handful of turns, cast a couple cantrips or whatever. Like, you have an idea of how far you are through your deck and what's left in it, and then to be like sanity checked. Like, I mean, there's value there that's not just value in helping you win that game, but value in making you a better player by providing you with accurate data so that you can adjust your expectations.
Yeah, but it's just funny, like, I've like, I don't play very much on my computer, but like I've never like thought to download one of those. Even like 17 lands, like I haven't like used that. But like 17 lands has kind of like changed the game on some level, because it's like, here I can tell you exactly what the most winning card is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can figure out exactly what the best color is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I guess always that Magic was like doing experiments, but you never were going to get enough
data.
And now it's like, no, like, we have 30,000 games.
Yeah.
Or 30,000 drafts. We know exactly like what the pick order is.
Yeah.
What the pick order should be.
Like, back when Arena first came out, I messed around with one of the trackers back then. But it was weird because like there wasn't really an official tracker. There was a whole bunch of like homebrewed ones, and they all felt super sketch.
Yeah.
So I always like didn't really want them on my computer.
I think untapped.gg has become like the kind of the default one.
Yeah. But it was also like the data that they were providing wasn't super relevant. Like it would track your wins and losses and like help you with win rates and stuff. But beyond that, like they weren't helping you during a game for sure.
Yeah, like I said, like Seth never uses it, but Jim Davis always has like, okay, we're like, this percentage, like we need one of these, like 5, like one of these cards, how many are left in my deck, what is the percentage that we're gonna draw it, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That is interesting. I hadn't heard of that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's untapped. I'm assuming it's the untapped.gg because that's like his sponsor.
Yeah.
But I am not 100% sure.
I'll have to look into it.
But if I play on my computer again, I might.
Yeah.
I shudder to think how long it would take to update my my client.
It'd probably be better erasing it and starting over.
Maybe.
It'd probably be quicker.
Maybe. All right. So let's Murders at Karlov Manor mechanics.
Yeah.
To think, when we started, the surveil mechanic was new.
It was.
And now it's returning. This is how long we've been doing this.
It's also evergreen now. Or not evergreen.
Yeah.
Deciduous.
It shows up kind of frequently.
Yeah.
All right. So, one thing I will say is this feels like when top-down design goes wrong.
Yeah, that is a way to put it. It's an accurate way to put it.
We want to do tropes from a murder mystery.
Right.
So we're going to make mechanics that fit those tropes. And then we're going to hopefully build a set around that, maybe.
Yeah. About the only thing they didn't do was lock everybody in a house. Which is what I assumed they were going to do.
We don't have all the cards yet. Like, they could have everyone locked in a house. But, all right. So, the first mechanic is Disguise, which is Power Crept Morph.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's just Morph. Everything works exactly like Morph does, except that it's called Disguise instead of Morph. And the face down creature for Disguise also has Ward 2.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and instead of being a morph, your morph is called a mysterious creature.
well, I don't know if that's entirely accurate because technically morphs don't have a name. Right?
Fair.
So,
but like it was always like, this is a morph.
Right. Yeah, I mean
The
that's what you
token
called
said
it, but
the token said morph.
yeah. And I guess I don't know that this is mysterious creature or whatever it is.
Well, the token says mysterious creature on it.
Well, right, but like, is it actually called that, or does it not have a name also?
Well, it's hard because like you also have things that are cloaked. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but they were like they're cloak. Oh, does it use the same token? I guess it does use the same token.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
I don't know.
So, if you played the cons draft, which we encouraged you to,
Mm-hmm.
you already have some experience with this. Maybe that's why they released cons, was to like slide people into like morph.
Yeah.
So morph is a morph, or I guess like undisguising, whatever it's called, is a special action. So to flip over your mysterious creature, you have to pay the disguise cost.
Yep.
And it flips. And a lot of them flip and have some sort of ability when they flip.
Yeah. Trigger something to happen.
Yeah, I saw something that was like, it was like a 4/2 flyer, but it had like a downside when it ETB'd.
Oh,
but
yeah?
if you disguise it and then flip it, it's already in play.
Oh, so it doesn't ETB.
So it doesn't ETB, so you don't get the downside.
Yeah. That's kind of cool design.
Yeah, so there are things to do. So like you can respond with a morph, but it doesn't technically use the stack.
Right, it just happens. Anytime you have priority, you can do the thing.
So like, if your opponent's like, pay a red, shock your thing, I'll pay the 2 for the ward. Then he can be like, excellent. I went out, unmorph my thing, and it's a 3/3.
Yep.
You spent 3 mana to deal 2 damage to my thing, and it still live.
Yep.
Right? So, anytime you have priority, you can undisguise.
We'll go with that.
Your disguised creature.
Yep. And like you said, the special ability does not use the stack, so it doesn't go onto the stack, and people can't respond to it.
Yeah, it just happens.
Yep, just happens.
All right. So I like your definition of cloak. Cloak is just manifest, where you're taking cards off the top of your deck and putting them face down.
Well, so technically it didn't say from the top of your deck, the article.
Okay. It's just from somewhere and they're face down?
Yeah, you're putting a card face down. It's not an ability. So with manifest, you couldn't like cast a card for manifest. Something else would manifest the card. It was always the ability of something else. And I'm pretty sure that's the same way cloak works, is that something is going to tell you to cloak a card, and then you will take that card and put it face down.
There was where was it? There was a card that was like, here it is. Exile any number of face-up creatures you control with disguise in a face-down pile. Shuffle that pile, then cloak them. To cloak, to cloak a card, put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature with ward 2. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature.
Yeah, so he doesn't have a name.
Oh, yes, fair. So you just flip them over.
Yep.
And then so they don't have to have to cloak, you don't have to have a disguise cost. Always that card I just read, what was it? Expose the culprit.
Mm-hmm.
It was it required them to have disguise. So you can have a creature face down from cloak, and if it's a creature, you can pay its mana value and flip it over.
Yeah. So a couple differences between cloak and disguise, and incidentally, manifest and morph, is that things that aren't creatures can be face down while using this ability. So you could have a land as a 2/2 creature with ward 2. You could have an instant that's a 2/2 creature with ward 2. The difference is that if it's not a creature, you can't turn it face up for its mana value.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a creature, you can. If you end up with a disguise or morph, or a creature with disguise or morph face down from cloak, you can choose whether to turn it face up with its morph cost, its disguise cost, or its mana value.
So we've talked about complexity creep in the past. Remember when it was like, all right, for limited, we did morph.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did manifest.
Yep.
And there were no morphs. I guess there were kind of, because like you drafted the sets together.
Yeah.
But you got the we're going to get morph figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to layer the extra complexity of having manifest on it.
Yep.
And then on the next set, we're going to do Mega Morph, which is this morph with like a +1/+1 counter. Yep. Also, horrific name.
Yes.
Mega
Morph.
Just yeah, like Morrow just asked one of his kids to name it.
Yeah.
Right. But like this, they're like, you don't get time to get used to one. I guess like doing contrast was your time to get used to the concept of like morph / disguise, and they're just like, here's both of them mixed together. Have fun.
Yeah.
So like these are fine. I mean, again, from the top down perspective, like, ooh, like you don't know who's who. It could be anyone.
Yeah. Kind
of deal. Which I called for New Capenna, but I guess I was a little off. Had like totally skipped my mind about like, oh, we could morph here.
That's right. I mean, this kind of has New Capenna vibes a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. We have a returning mechanic.
Another one?
We have another one.
Yeah, weren't the first two just returning mechanics?
They are. I mean, this is the argument of everything's kicker. Anything face down is morph. It doesn't matter. It's just morph.
Yeah.
We have investigate. So investigate is you get a clue. A clue is an artifact token with 2 sack, draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
This is the early start, or was this the start of like artifact tokens everywhere?
Yeah, basically. Right? We had right before clues in Shadows over Innistrad, we had, was it Ethereum cells from
and one Tezzeret.
Yeah.
And they were just treasures before we had treasures.
Yeah.
I guess technically when you go all the way back, there was the gold token in Theros.
Yes.
That was like treasure. The first. That was kind of the first one, but yeah, this is where like a set was built around investigating. I mean, it is things you're gonna care about, like when you investigate, do a thing. Mm-hmm. So when you make a clue, do a thing, or when you sacrifice a clue, do a thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the more, like when I was writing the show notes out, the more I thought about like investigate in general. Probably for limited, there's going to be a lot of things that care about sacrificing just an artifact instead of specifically a clue.
There's a lot of things that care about you sacrificing artifact. And to kind of like piggyback on this, since you draw a card, mm-hmm. There's already some cards. They've not spoiled that much, but there's already cards that are like when you draw your second card this turn.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, yeah, so you can like kind of do it both ways. You can be like, oh, when you sacrifice a clue, do a thing, or when you draw a card, which you had to sacrifice a clue presumably to do.
Right.
Like, this is a fine mechanic.
Mhm.
They brought back secretly one of the best cards in Magic,
Graven Inspector.
which is, yes, Novice Investigator. Um, like, you don't think that's particularly good, but 3 mana for a 1/2 draw a card on the installment plan
Yeah.
is pretty good. Like, where you can just have this clue sitting there.
No, I mean, there's also been plenty of
And
decks that showed off the power of random game objects. So
yes, random game objects. But I was gonna say, like, you have this situation where you're like, here is this treasure, or here is this card that I have sitting here
yep.
that I have a place to put 2 mana when I have 2 mana left over at some point.
Yeah.
In the next like 5 turns.
Yep.
Right. It's also gonna be interesting to see, like, does a second Thraben Inspector trump Valder and Epicure in like the Boros Convoke deck?
Maybe.
Or does it play like 12
Inspector
things that make 12 game object one drops and like shave something else? But like it's like maybe there's people that are like, I like the threat of drawing a card, and like I like the damage.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Interesting.
But investigate was like fun in Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they do a good job with it here. And it's been good.
Yeah.
All right.
The next one we have here is called Suspect. No, we don't have.
I don't like it.
Oh,
I know we have a next one. I'm just I don't like it.
Not a fan already. We only have the name.
I don't have the name.
So with Suspect, something is going to tell you to suspect a creature. That creature will be designated as suspected. I think we were kind of speculating in the pre-show that this may be with like a punch-out token or something.
I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. As long as that creature is suspected, it gains menace and can't block. And it remains suspected as long as it's on the battlefield or something unsuspects it. Removes the suspicion?
Yes.
Removes the suspicion?
Yeah. I think like the way they've worded it is like it loses
suspect?
Yeah, let me see. I saw a card. I feel like I saw the alibi. Here we go. Okay. So Airtight Alibi, names. When Airtight Alibi enters the battlefield, untap enchanted creature. It gains hexproof until end of turn. If it's suspected, it's no longer suspected.
No longer suspected. Okay.
Is how they have chosen to word this.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it seems like a tracking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're trying too hard.
I just don't think it does anything. Like, what even is the purpose?
I mean, top-down design. So this made me.
Yeah,
this
but like that's
made
it,
me
right?
think.
This has to be one of the least impactful mechanics ever.
Yeah, the only thing I can think is this mechanic may indicate that this format is fast, which is hard to be fast compared to a lot of the formats we've had recently that are, a lot of them are like blazing fast. But this mechanic makes it so your creature can't block.
Mm-hmm. Which means you have to attack with it every turn.
You have to attack with it, or you just are wasting your piece of cardboard.
Right.
And it gives it menace, which makes it better at attacking.
Right.
Or, conversely, you're ahead. You make one of your opponent's creatures suspected.
Yeah.
Now it can't block.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can get you're just putting a bunch of hammer hands.
Basically.
In the set, right?
Yeah.
The set's got to have like 15 things that say target creature can't block.
Yeah.
Right? So like is it gonna be a situation where like games are like you play your thing, your opponent plays their thing, then you play a thing that suspects their thing and attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then they suspect your untapped creature back, and then they attack.
Surprise, no longer suspected.
Yeah, and like it's that, or you're like okay, like if you go like two suspect creatures, creature that makes something suspect, creature that makes something suspect, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they have creatures that do that, but like, okay, convenient target, red, enchantment aura, enchant creature, target creature. When convenient target enters the battlefield, suspected enchanted creature,
Yeah.
right? Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, so like you can give your thing menace,
Right.
and just YOLO, I'm not going to block, or you can give their thing, you're a little bit bigger, but I'm going to win the race.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like hammer hands, or like this probably takes the spot of hammer hands in um like the, oh gosh, the light pause decks,
Yeah.
right? Because like, well, maybe not, because like I guess if it's in your hand, you can make it so their thing can't block. But if you tutor it up, you give your thing menace,
Oh yeah.
which
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
just be unblockable.
Yep.
But yeah, it does feel like a mechanic that was just like, we need something else.
Yeah.
And like,
Well,
I don't.
like what I meant is like a creature not being able to block is, I mean, it's a thing and it can win a
Mhm.
game, but it's not like overly powerful. Like Falter isn't super powerful.
It's not. I mean,
And,
I guess there's like a push pull of like, you make it so it can't block, but you make it harder to block. So you have to
yeah.
make sure you're going to like win the race.
And well, I mean, same thing goes with Menace. Like Menace is fine, but you're not putting cards in your deck because they say Menace on them. You know what I mean? Like
Not typically, no.
it's not, either side of that isn't a card.
No, it feels, like I said, it feels tacked on. It felt like
But that's
we
the whole
need,
mechanic.
it's just like a thing that feels tacked on.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we need a thing that uses the word suspect.
Right.
So how are we gonna do that? And like, why is it that a suspect is bad on defense and good on offense? Like, I don't understand.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't read it that way. I thought that like if you're suspecting somebody of something, like if I'm suspecting you of being a murderer, like,
okay,
and I make that known so everybody knows that you're suspected of murder, like you're scary now.
oh, okay, but then why are you so scared that you can't block?
No, you can't block. You're on the run.
Oh, fair. Okay,
You can't
okay,
block. You can't stay in one place.
fair, 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 fair.
You're a suspect,
Okay,
man. They're out to get you. It's flavorful. It's
okay,
top down. They started at the
okay.
top and then said, we need to do a thing with suspects.
I think it was,
What's a suspect
we
do?
should.
It
Yeah,
runs.
exactly. Okay, fair. So if you run, you can't block.
Yeah. And you're
But
scary,
like
so you
then,
get menace.
okay, okay, I'm with you. I'm with you on the top down design. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just, it doesn't, it doesn't feel like a mechanic. It just feels like
Yeah.
words thrown together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I understand the desire, or like perhaps the feeling of obligation to like make new mechanics each set, but there comes a point where it's like, you've got a bajillion mechanics. You can just bring some back.
Well, they did.
And
They brought back Morph and Manifest.
but like, you can bring some back and not screw with them and just like let them do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, in your game will be fine. Like, people play Cube with just mishmashes of old mechanics smashed together.
Right.
Like, LSV is apparently feeding his family just streaming Cube drafts. Right? Like, people like this. Like, people like your old mechanics. You don't need to just like constantly like make things awful.
Yeah.
All right. So next we have collect evidence.
Collect evidence. So
What
this
is
is kind
this?
of the inverse. It's an extra cost you pay, but it's not just kicker.
It's not?
It's not, because this can be on activated abilities or triggered abilities. Whereas kicker is when you cast a spell. Collect evidence you do whenever it asks you to collect evidence. So to collect evidence, you exile cards from your graveyard equal to a mana value that is provided like next to this ability. It'll say collect evidence 8, and you'll have to exile cards from your graveyard with a total mana value of 8, and then you get to do the thing. Right?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I got that right.
Yes.
And yeah, the way this is different from like a kicker is that this is, while kicker was like an extra cost for just spells, this is an extra cost for everything.
Yes. There are spells that have it. There's creatures where it's like a ward cost.
Yep. There was something with an activated ability I thought I saw.
Perhaps. I know we don't have all of them yet.
Yeah.
But
I thought I saw one with an activated ability. Maybe I'm wrong.
yeah, there's there's some spells that have it,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's fine. It's like weird Delve. It's like Bizarro Delve.
Yeah.
Where basically lands are no good.
Yeah, it's like the inverse of Delph.
Yeah, it's like you got to get big things in your yard. So I've already seen like Aspiring Spike talking about how like Street Wraith or some of the big cyclers from Lord of the Rings
Mhm.
are going to help fuel this because they will, right? Like you cycle away Troll of Cause of Doom when you have a 6 already.
Right.
Like we were talking in the pre-show, like some of the land cyclers from Ixalan are like 7 mana. Like you basically covered a lot of them. Like 8's the highest one we've seen.
Or the ones from Amonkhet, like the Desert Ceradon's 6 mana, right?
Yeah, and I think the blue guy, the hexproof guy, I think that's 6 or 7.
Maybe. Oh yeah,
Stripe
yeah.
Riverwinder.
Yeah, I think that is 6. 6 as well.
So, like, you have this thing. I wonder. So, this is something I just thought of, right? It doesn't limit you to cards, like a number of cards.
You think you can overpay?
Right? What if for some reason you wanted the lands out of your graveyard? Or like low cost things, right? So like you could have like, you know, whatever this collect evidence for, and you could like remove 12 cards from your graveyard.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could remove any zeros you wanted to get rid of, any lands you wanted to get rid of.
Any number of cards, even extra ones if you really want to.
Oh, so you can like even overpay with like mana value.
Yep.
Okay. So like I wonder if there's something like not that you want to do this in like modern, but what's he called? Murktide Regent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you when a card leaves your graveyard, right?
Yeah.
When it's in a sorcery, you put a counter on it.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's a way to grow your Murktide.
Yep.
Strixhaven, didn't the Lorehold mechanic be like, hey, when something leaves your graveyard, get a thing?
Make a spirit, yeah.
Yeah. So like here's now a way to like have more things like enter exile from your graveyard.
I think a lot of the stuff that does that though is one or more. And this would only be one instance. So like that wouldn't really reward you for overpaying.
Fair. But like I'm just wondering if there's like I can't think of a reason that you're like I would like to exile my own graveyard now, thank you.
Yeah.
But like
probably more efficient ways to do it.
Yeah. I mean the 1 green mana like creature tutor.
Yeah.
With like, you know, with collect evidence 8. Right? Like
just nuke my graveyard.
Yeah, or like we were talking like a Parhelion's 8. If you have 2 Parhelions in your yard, this is just a green mana, exile a Parhelion, get a Grease
Get a
Fang.
Grease Fang, yeah.
Or, whatever random things are in your graveyard. Like, is it easier to collect Evidence 8 or get Delirium? And it probably depends on the deck.
On the deck, yeah.
But, right, like, that's something to consider.
Yep.
But yeah, I wonder if there's a thing that, like, hey, if I exile my entire graveyard, a thing happens, or...
Yeah, I think they alluded to that somewhere. I had a note here that it sounds like things may care about having collected evidence as well.
Okay.
So I don't know where I pulled that from, but
I
wouldn't have wrote it if I didn't think it was true, so.
Fair.
And that's all that matters is perception, right?
Yeah, I am not in the business of lying to myself. I don't think. Yeah, so like it's again, it feels again in the pre-show we're talking about, like, it's weird that we had like Descent in a number.
Yeah.
And now we have another mechanic that is like a word in a number.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why? I know why. Like, Morrow's getting to the end of his notebook of like mechanics he thought up like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That he's like, crap.
Oh yeah, these are the rejects that we're getting now.
Yeah. So it is interesting. Like, I kind of want to go back and maybe do like a Scryfall search for like when a card like leaves a graveyard or when a card enters exile. Yeah, because like there might be like, hey, when a card enters exile, do a thing.
Well, you want to cue that up real quick while I talk about the next mechanic?
Sure.
And then we'll circle back to it. So the next mechanic we have here is cases. And these are a new enchantment subtype, I guess. They're kind of saga adjacent, where there's like multiple things on each case. When, like, as step 1, they are a thing. They either do a thing when they enter the battlefield, or they have some sort of static ability. And then underneath that, they have a condition that has to be met and a timing. I think I've seen some of them that care about your end step, some of them that care about your upkeep. But if you meet the condition during that time, then you get to go to step 3 and do whatever step 3 is. Some it's a triggered ability, some it's another static ability, some it's an activated ability. Very much like a saga, where you're kind of working through the ranks, except instead of doing it like turn by turn by turn, you're doing it like when you meet the conditions. Well, I guess when you meet the one condition.
Yeah, so it's like a saga, but like you control how you walk through the story.
Well, you're working towards it instead of like
just being
present for it.
Yeah, I guess like remember those like I'm gonna date myself. Those tapes or like records when you were a kid that was like when you hear the boop, turn the page.
Yeah.
Every turn the saga goes boop. Right? With the investigate, like you get to decide, like I've worked through this page, I now get to turn it to the next thing, as opposed to being told every turn, boop.
Yeah.
Move through the story. You kind of get to choose when you move through the story.
Yeah.
I am looking. I've not found anything yet. I've not given up.
Nothing came up in Scryfall?
Like, there are 214 cards for card enters exile.
Yeah.
Right? So there might be something here, but I don't know.
Card
That's what Reddit's
graveyard.
for. Yeah. Oh, card leaves graveyard. That's a good one.
That's probably more than card enters exile.
Let's see here.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure somebody on Reddit has figured it out already.
Yeah. There's only 31 of those.
Anything game breaking jumping out?
Nothing is like jumping out. at me. I've not found anything. So, yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
All right.
But yeah, there's probably something, and I'm doing a poor Scryfall search.
No biggie.
But
so anything else to add to cases, or that's pretty much it?
I think the big difference between cases and sagas, other than kind of like the pacing, is like sagas when you cast it and it resolves, you know exactly the outputs you're going to get and when you're going to get them. Like if there's a particular like case that is good, everyone knows what the condition is.
Right.
So like they can be like, oh man, I've got to destroy their clue.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, bad things are going to happen. Or I have to destroy this creature because if not, whatever thing happens. So like they can like more like aggressively keep you off of it, which could give a little bit more interplay.
Yeah.
But also like I think weakens them. Like it might be a situation where you have to like you try to play your cases when you've already met the requirement.
So they immediately pop.
Yeah, so it's like I need 4 clues.
Yeah.
I have 3, and when this comes in, it investigates. So
there was one that cared about cards in a graveyard too, I think.
Mm-hmm. So it might be you might play them differently, where you're playing them maybe as like a spell with a condition. Almost remember the legendary sorceries?
Yeah.
Where like you can't cast this unless you have a legendary creature or planeswalker.
Yeah.
Right. This might be like, hey, you don't cast this spell until you have met the condition.
Yeah, except for the ones that like trigger on upkeep, because then they gotta not only get through the rest of your turn, but they also have to get through your opponent's entire turn. While having met the condition. Unless the condition doesn't matter. I mean, maybe the first
maybe the ETB is the thing that you want.
Yeah. Well, they're not all ETBs. Some of them are static abilities too, I think.
Yeah, like the thing, ETB static, whatever it does, like the piece of cardboard is better than
Yep. So you find anything interesting, or do you want to get into my my little rant here?
We can perhaps rant away.
All right. I mean, we've already talked about some of it as we were going through the mechanics, and we alluded to some of it before that, and we also talked about it in the pre-show, so we've already kind of discussed this a bit. But to me, like disguise kind of seems like a cop-out. It's just putting a new skin on Morph. It's not like breaking ground with new mechanics or come up with something interesting. It's like literally just putting a new skin on Morph. And part of the problem with this in particular, that I think we talked about this in the pre-show, but we didn't talk about it earlier, is that it doesn't play well with Morph. Even though it's literally the exact same mechanic, they don't play together because the things that care about morphs don't care about disguises. And the things that care about disguises don't care about morphs. Now, some of the stuff does care like just about things turning face up, and like they don't mind whether you're a morph or a disguise. But it's kind of like parasitic. Like you would think if you were building a morph deck and there's a mechanic that's just morph, that it would play well together. I guess parasitic isn't the right word, but you'd think that they would play well together, and in reality, they probably don't play very well together.
And it's funny that they just, I guess they should have realized that Surveil was coming when they took all of the cards that were Surveil, but with more words, and just made them Surveil.
Yeah.
Right, when they were like, you know what is it, Consider?
Yeah.
Consider would play better with all these other cards if it just said Surveil.
Yeah.
So we should make it Surveil. To then take a mechanic that is feel like there was another mechanic recently. It was like effectively the same mechanic as something else.
Yeah.
And just be like, we're gonna make it different so they don't work together.
They keyworded it.
Yeah. We're gonna keyword it in a weird way.
Yeah.
So it does kind of suck that you lose a lot of the backwards compatibility. Oh, it does change how it plays, but like night day versus the old werewolves. So like they printed all these werewolves, but they weren't backwards compatible with the werewolves you had from Innistrad.
Not only were they not backwards compatible, but you like actively didn't want to play them together because it was just a nightmare to track what was flipping when.
Yeah. But so like now you have this thing that like, you know, I guess they can make the payoffs so that they work with Morph, because like, do they like, you are transforming, right? Like, is that the language when you undisguise something?
Oh, I don't know.
Right. You turn it face up.
Yeah.
So like, Secret Plans and Trail of Mystery is like when you turn a creature face up.
Yeah.
It triggers. So like the payoffs work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they could print cool payoffs. So I guess like maybe it works because the payoffs are when you turn a creature face up.
Yeah.
But it is like unintuitive that you're gonna have like, is that face down thing a morph? Or is that face down thing like, man, like disguise, like the value of morph tokens just went through the roof.
Well, good, because I got a whole bunch of them.
Got a stack. Stacks and stacks.
Yeah.
Or is that a manifest or is that a cloak? It's like, oh my god, just stop. They're all 2/2s. Just cast your Anger of the Gods and let us all move on.
To that point, the exact same thing applies to cloak as does disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I just said repeated again for cloak.
And yeah, the idea of like, we don't have like a like unique way to like differentiate, to like come up with a new mechanic that is like sneaky, and we're just going to like power creep morph.
Yeah.
Because like, think about how ridiculous Ward 2 on the cards and cons would have been.
Oh yeah.
Your Rite of the Serpent costs 8.
Yeah.
To kill a 3-mana 2/2. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
Right. So it just feels like they were like, well, it can't just be. I'm guessing like they were like, it can't just be like, it's 100% exactly morph, but we just changed the name. Yeah. So like, well, what can we do? I will just give them all Ward.
Is there? So when I first read these two mechanics, I'm not sure why, but I got the impression that they were doing this for. I had a very different impression than you did. Like, when you saw them, you thought that it was because it's top-down design. They needed a mechanic to represent these things, so this is what they did. When I read these mechanics, I got the impression that they wanted to redo Morph, make it more reusable, make it more appealing to whoever's playing the game now instead of whoever was playing the game during cons.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, like, how reusable is disguise? And I know you said that like anyone can grab like a big nose and a mustache.
Well, I mean, really though, if you're using morph, like that refers to a very specific kind of magic in Magic the Gathering. Now, like you mentioned in the pre-show, we've seen it in 2 different places, but it's a very specific kind of magic that does this. It's not widespread. It's not on every plane. But, I mean, every plane could theoretically have somebody in disguise. Like, you could dress up as somebody else. You could pretend you're a badger. You could hide yourself in a barrel. You know what I mean?
Oh, ignore me. I'm just a wee badger. Kristen, you're a badger. I was gonna say that, like, the entire like story of Keldheim was boom.
Yeah.
Valky's Tybalt.
Exactly.
Right.
Could have, but it's a disguise.
It's a disguise.
Yep. 3 kids in a trench coat.
3 mana, play it face down. 7 mana, unbeatable planeswalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
literally any plane could have a disguise, whereas not any plane could have a morph.
It's also one of those mechanics that feels a little complicated. Like, yeah, it's a special action. It doesn't use the stack. Like, it feels like it's a thing where like that's hard to throw in everywhere. But they are just throwing Wither up in this piece randomly.
Yep.
So, are there any Wither heads out there that are just like, oh man, I put in another Wither card?
For the new Massacre Girl.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It seems.
Real quick aside, when I saw the card for Massacre Girl, the new Massacre Girl, I didn't see the regular version. I saw the like alternate art special version, whatever. I'm trying to find it now. And here it is. And
going in the chat.
I misread it. And the card's name is Massacre Girl Known Killer. I thought it said Massacre Girl Clown Killer. And the art on the alternate one, like Massacre Girl's got like a big painted on smile like a clown.
To here.
Every time I see Massacre Girl, I think the Clown Killer.
Oh, very Jokerish.
Yeah.
Like very, very, very Jokerish.
Yeah. It's the Clown Killer.
That'd have been pretty good. The Massacre Girl Clown Killer. There we go.
Anyways,
I mean, even her regular art, has the big
smile
thing, the big smile. Yeah. I guess her like original one did as well. All right, and then I agree with you on the next thing that Suspect is like an arena mechanic.
Yeah, it's a nightmare to track in paper, and I think this was in the pre-show that I said this, but
yeah,
it's one of those mechanics that, kind of like I alluded to, either isn't like super duper impactful. Like nobody's going to build a Suspect deck. It's a thing that they throw on some cards for limited. It's impossible to track in paper, and it's not going to really impact the game much. Like, sure, it's going to like get a blocker out of the way once in a while and win somebody a game, but in the grand scheme of the set, it's not going to be impactful enough until somebody forgets that something has been suspected and attacks with it, and then they realize it, or blocks with it.
Blocks.
And then like 2 turns later, somebody realizes that that creature shouldn't have attacked, and it's too late to fix anything, and it like ruins a whole tournament.
Or someone attacks and they forget it has menace.
Yeah.
And it gets single blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just like I was saying, like, you know, the back in the Scarab God days, like we're gonna be pulling the card out of a sleeve. Like this is suspected. And oh no, it's no longer suspected, like push it back in the sleeve.
Yeah.
Right? Like that might also happen where like it was suspected, then it was no longer suspected, and you should have pushed it back in the sleeve. And you forget to push it back in the sleeve, and then your opponent thinks it has menace or thinks it can't block.
Right.
And they attack, and you're like, ha!
Gotcha.
And they're like, but it was out of the sleeve. Like, oh, I just forgot to push it in.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It must have fallen out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like they keep making mechanics that are like harder and harder to track in paper.
Yeah.
And this is a mechanic that doesn't seem like the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I feel like we get one of these every set, right? There has been one mechanic in like every set for the last year it's just impossible to play in paper.
Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, the Arena client will fix it. Like 95% of the games are played on Arena because we have murdered all OP. So we're just not gonna concern ourselves with how people would like. Would you want to play this in paper? We don't care. Don't care.
Yeah.
Do I look like a person that cares? I do not.
No. I just feel like this. I know we haven't seen the whole set yet, and hopefully my tune will change. But based on the cards that we've seen, there's a couple ones that I think are all right, but there's nothing exciting in this set. And when you read through the mechanics, there's nothing like I'm excited to play with. Like, you're gonna build a disguise deck? No. Are you gonna build a suspect deck? No. Like, these aren't.
Okay, you keep saying this, but you forget about like the entire commander. Like, someone is like, they have like their Optimus Prime commander, and then everything's gonna be a robot in disguise.
They're gonna dress them up as a badger.
They're gonna be badgers. They're just gonna go nuts. But like, yeah, I'm not looking at it. I think I texted you and said, "Man, all these mechanics are booty."
Yeah.
Right. It's just like, oh, these are all bad. Like, none of these. I wasn't like, oh man, this is great. It's like you said, a reskin of Morph.
Yeah.
And then like, Delve at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, like it's kind of Delve, it's kind of not, it's kind of different. Like, it doesn't feel like it's new.
Right.
It's just like kind of replaying. It's funny that we have knockoff Morph and knockoff Delve after we just played the set that gave us Morph and Delve together.
Yeah.
Like,
well, hey, I mean, maybe that's why we're making the connection there.
Yeah, like, did you like that 3 weeks of cons? Well, I got a surprise for you.
Yeah, here's some more.
Here's some more.
Yeah, like,
and then
when I was reading through this, and I mentioned it earlier also, that this doesn't feel like a main set release for me.
Mm-hmm.
Typically I'd be looking forward to spoiler season starting, and to me this feels like Aftermath, where it's just like a thing that happens and like doesn't really matter a whole lot. And I don't know. It doesn't feel like a main set release.
I mean, it's also hard with like, in the era of perpetual hype.
Yeah. To
like get yourself up for a set and like be excited since the fall, Wilds of Eldraine, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Ravnica Remastered, more Lord of the Rings cards, Fallout, and now Murders at Karlov Manor.
Yeah.
Right, like there have been 6 sets, according to Mythic Spoiler, not counting Secret Layers.
Right.
That have happened since October?
Yeah, Fallout's not
September?
Out yet, but...
What?
Fallout's not out yet.
But... Yeah, but we've already seen cards for it. We've seen like a good number of cards.
Yep. So
like it's just hard to be like, yay, I'm super excited about this, because like every 2 weeks there's like new cards.
Right.
And like I used to like go to Mythic Spoiler all the time.
Yep. And
check stuff. And now I'm just like, we'll check in whenever.
Yeah.
But it does feel like stuff's kind of like shoehorned in.
Mm-hmm.
It also, like, I made this comment when we went a while back. We went through like, we're gonna have like the Death Race set with like the Omen Path thing, and we're gonna have the Wild West set. Like, I feel like because they're just kind of like going through their Netflix like movie library, that like it's just going to be like just like played out trope after played out trope.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
well, is it Duskmorn or whatever is another like trope set.
Mm-hmm.
The 70s, 80s horror or whatever.
Yeah, because like I think I don't know how many world builders they have left, right? Yeah. But
they don't need them now that they got AI, right?
I guess we do not use AI except for when we pay other people to use AI.
Right.
But
then we still deny it.
But like, I think it's really hard to go from like a roughish idea to like Kaladesh.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I think that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've done it recently. I think Wilds of Eldraine, like, was kind of a different, like, it was, you know, like a twist and very different, like, fairy tales kind of thing. It felt a little bit more fleshed out, but it's harder to, like, do a Kaladesh.
Right.
Do, like, a cons and kind of, like, build, like, an entire world with, like, a history. And it's, like, easy to, like, well, we know Ravnica. There's not a lot of backstory here. We don't need to build anything. We're going to go to Ravnica. We're going to murder someone. And then we're going to, like, just put lines from every whodunit movie we've ever watched into the onto the cards and call it good.
Yeah.
Also, just like, you know, random thought as I was looking at the previews. Remember when Magic cards had flavor text?
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking and I was like, wow, there's so much text on these cards now.
No room
between rules text and yeah, there's like so few cards that have like flavor text.
Yeah. Poor guy
just
lost
like,
his job.
The flavor text guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
That's probably something AI can do too, right?
Yeah, we've moved on to just having more rules text. But like, yeah, there's just like, or it's like, you know, like a line or like a couple words. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, we've just lost that real estate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of sucks. It kind of feels like rushed would be a good way to put it.
Well, it feels like it doesn't belong. I don't know. Like, Aftermath was a set that felt like it didn't belong. It was just kind of leftovers, whatever, not really cohesive. And this, I know we haven't seen all the cards. I hope I feel different once we see the set. But it kind of feels the same way. Like, everything's inconsequential.
Like, this is all stuff that's just thrown together.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, and just like
somebody phoned it in. Like, oh yeah, I don't have my homework done. Can you scribble some words on a piece of paper for me? Yeah. Delve, morph, manifest.
Yeah. It's like, we already have those. Well, add ward 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are new mechanics. And then make it care about the mana value of the cards that were removed as opposed to just the number of cards.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Works for me. See you next week.
I mean, realistically, everything except for Suspect is, we already had the mechanic. And Suspect is arguably the worst mechanic in this list.
Yes, Suspect feels least like a mechanic.
Yeah. We already had Disguise and Morph. We already had Cloak and Manifest. We already had Investigate and Investigate. We already had Collect Evidence and Delve. And we already had Cases as Sagas.
So, like, it's like, it feels like they are so afraid, like, that the precedent has been every set brings like a bunch of new mechanics. Right? Like, we have shown that master sets work.
Yep.
Right? We have shown that, like, Modern Horizons often doesn't bring new mechanics.
Right.
It just takes old mechanics and, you know, horribly cranks them up to 11.
Yes.
Right? Like, you can make a set where you don't make new mechanics and just have, you know, existing mechanics play together in different and unique ways where, like, you know, you need 5 new mechanics or whatever, or 3 new mechanics, whatever it ends up being, really is kind of like a limited thing.
Yeah.
right? You don't want all the limited to feel exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But like you could have a limited environment that had morph and spell mastery
Mm-hmm.
and investigate, right? Like we've never played a limited environment that has these as like main themes.
Yeah.
Right? And that would be fine. You don't have to make it disguise.
Right.
And uh discover evidence.
Yeah.
And
Collect
also
evidence.
like collect evidence. But like also it kind of like the old mechanics, like their names felt cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Constellation is really narrow, but Constellation's kind of like an evocative,
Right.
like world building kind of name.
Yeah. It's not bland.
Yeah, and like collect evidence just feels like, what can we call this? I don't collect evidence. I don't know. Like we have clues and then we have to have evidence. Right, yeah, but we have to dig through the trash.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have to have something about evidence kind of thing. As opposed to being like, like dig through evidence is a mechanic that becomes really hard to put into another set.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like so now we're going to have some like knockoff version of dig through evidence.
Yeah.
We're gonna be like, this is just whatever, discover evidence, or whatever the heck it's called.
Collect evidence.
Collect evidence. I'm not gonna call it the right thing ever. Right. We're gonna have like some other version that'll be like, delve the depths.
Yeah.
And or like
Fathomless
ransack.
descent.
Yeah, or like oh gosh. Crypt robbery.
Yeah.
Crypt robbery 4. Right? Like where it's like, yeah, this is way too specific to this set. We have to do something else. So we're going to steal this again, but we're going to call it something else because we like pigeonholed ourselves because we were too busy trying to make sure that we, again, said everything that that Marissa Hargitay said on the last episode of SVU.
We checked the evidence box.
Yeah. Have to work the word evidence in here somewhere because we are investigating with clues. And when you investigate with clues, you find what? Evidence, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I feel like I was just in the meeting.
I think you were. You got your whiteboard in front of you?
We're investigating. We have clues. And when you do that, you have to, what was it again? Collect evidence. You got to collect evidence when you're looking at them clues. And it's like, okay, there we go. We have the name of the mechanic.
Yep.
Sweet. Or like, what was it? Like extort? Mm-hmm. Like that was like as a mechanic that is very like, like works.
Evocative,
and like,
flavorful.
Yeah, evocative. Yeah. Like it works better than like bribery or like, it would be like calling it Orzhov taxation.
Right.
And then like, oh man, we can't use Orzhov taxation. We have to call it like something else. You got to come up with a different name. It's like, no, you had like a name that like was effectively like evergreen or deciduous that you could come back to. Yeah. And like they've done this.
That's an unfortunate example though, because I'm pretty sure
they've never gone back to it.
Well, I'm pretty sure the reason they haven't gone back to it is because the rules text for it specifically calls out hybrid white-black.
Yeah. Yeah, so makes it a little harder.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like it just feels like a lot of the mechanic names recently are just like, let's just say real world phrase.
Yeah.
And call it good.
Yep. We'll call it that.
As opposed to like, let's exist in our high fantasy world that we have developed for 30 years and put like limousines in it and random other mundane real things.
Yeah.
So
Gandalf.
So
Space
Marines.
The TARDIS.
I have a Space Marine in the cube now.
Do you?
Yeah. He like enters the battlefield and like draws a card and has squad. So you can make a bunch of tokens of him. Excellent. It's like a wild uncommon. It's like, why is this an uncommon? But yeah, so like, play-wise, the mechanics are probably fine. Like, I don't know, putting Ward 2 in all of your morphs just seems like unnecessarily punishing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, thank goodness their solution wasn't to make Shock uncounterable.
I
like
mean,
they did with
they could have.
like they did with the long goodbye.
Yeah.
Where they're just like
uncounterable eliminate.
Yeah. And they even call out this includes by the Ward ability.
Yeah. Just in case you didn't know.
We slapped a million things with Ward in this set, and we were like, wow, you can't kill anything.
Yeah.
I guess we should fix that.
Yep.
So hopefully, like, over the next few days, like, cards come out and we're like, oh, these are, like, neat and workable.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope it changes my mind, because I am not excited for this in the least. And typically spoiler season is my favorite season.
Yeah. Like, and the cards don't have to be, like, powerful to be interesting. Like, they could just be, like...
Interesting.
Like, I think the most interesting card I've seen in this set is probably Crime Novelist.
Yeah.
Right? It's, I saw there's an infinite combo with it and Fabrication Module. Is that the right one?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Animation Module. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are placed on a permanent you control, you may pay 1. If you do, make a servo. Yeah. And then you just need a way to, like, sack a servo, and then you just, like, get to, like, you can put a counter on it. So, like, carry and feeder.
KCI.
Yeah, and you just... So, like... But, yeah, like that card looks like it'll do interesting things.
Yep.
But... Yeah, they don't have to be, like, automatically, like, the, super, like, powerful. They just, like, have to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't know, these cards just don't strike me as super interesting.
Well, the mechanics don't strike me as super interesting, and I think it's hard to design interesting cards around uninteresting mechanics.
Yeah. All right, so with all this, I think we got a show.
We got a show.
You made it this far. Thank you for listening for 5 years.
5 years.
5 long years.
I wonder how many people stuck with us the whole time.
I don't know. Like, if you've listened to 260 episodes of the Casual Try Hard podcast, let us know.
Yeah,
reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, all that jazz, and be like, I've been here since the beginning.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
I've also been here since the beginning.
I have as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, say hey. But we appreciate all of you. Those of you who like keep listening, so we keep making it. So
yeah, here's to you. Here's to 5 more years, 260 more episodes.
Yeah.
If you want to see that happen, you can help to support the show in 2 different ways. The first is with a TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Head on over there, do whatever shopping you're going to do anyway. Just do it at TCG Player, and you'll help support the show at the same time. If you want to support us more directly, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG is where you can do that. The juicy part of my rant we didn't cover, so that is in the pre-show. Our patrons get access to that, so you're welcome, patrons. A little bit of extra content for you. Patrons also get access to our show notes, so you kind of have an idea of what that week's episode is going to be about, and you get put on my mailing list for when I have swag to send out. So if any of that sounds good to you, or if you really want to hear what I ranted about this week, or if you just want to support the show, we like that as well. Head on over to patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG and chip a couple bucks in to help us out.
Yeah.
We would appreciate it.
So with that, we'll catch you on the internet.
We'll catch you on the internet.